day I inherited the ruins was the day my life shattered and reassembled itself into something unrecognizable. Harrison, that was my name, a man with an ordinary past thrust into the extraordinary. The ancient mine was tucked deep in the mountains, a relic abandoned by time and forgotten by civilization. Nobody dared approach it, not because of superstition alone, but because of the whispered stories about what lingered inside. I had no intention of becoming part of those legends until the letter arrived. Legal jargon filled the pages, confirming the mine was mine by bloodline, a bequest from a great uncle I never met. Curiosity pried at my mind. Why me? What secrets did those crumbling stones hold? I arrived at dusk. The air was thick with a metallic scent, the sky bruised with storm clouds. As I stepped into the cavernous entrance, my footsteps echoed, swallowed by the darkness beyond. My flashlight barely pierced the black, and the walls seemed to breathe, ancient and alive. The ground beneath my boots was uneven, scattered with shards of rock and rusted machinery from a forgotten era. Deeper I ventured, guided by instinct and a strange pull in my chest. Then I saw her, chained to a massive pillar, a figure radiant yet restrained. Her skin shimmered faintly under my light, iridescent scales that flickered like liquid silver. Eyes like twin stars stared back, fierce and resigned. Arilissa. The legend made flesh and bound in cold iron. She was no ordinary captive. The chains hummed with an energy I couldn't comprehend, ancient technology fused with arcane symbols. Her gaze held centuries of solitude and silent rebellion. Despite the shackles, her aura commanded respect, fear, and something far deeper. A yearning that startled me. I stepped closer, heart pounding. The air thickened, charged with power. "Who are you?" I whispered. She didn't answer but tilted her head, a gesture both curious and wary. The silence stretched, broken only by the distant drip of water and the crackling of the chains. My fingers brushed the cold metal. Suddenly the chains flared, sending a pulse through my skin, searing and electrifying. Arilissa's eyes locked onto mine, and for the first time she spoke, not in words, but in a flood of images and emotions crashing into my mind. Betrayal, loss, a cosmic war, and a desperate hope pinned on one human's touch. I recoiled, overwhelmed. This was no mere prisoner. She was a legend caught between worlds, a key to secrets that mankind wasn't ready to face. Yet something about her vulnerability stirred something primal in me, a need to protect, to defy the fates written in stars. As I stood there in that forgotten mine, I realized my inheritance was no treasure of gold or gems, but a destiny intertwined with hers. The past was chained, but the future was ours to claim. If I dared touch the legend, no one else could. That night, sleep evaded me. The image of Arilissa, chained and luminous in the dark, haunted every corner of my mind. I kept replaying the surge of power when my skin met those ancient shackles, a shock that felt like a warning and an invitation all at once. Who had bound her here and why? What part was I meant to play in this cosmic puzzle? At dawn, I returned to the mine, this time armed with equipment, scanners, energy analyzers, anything that might decipher the technology entwined in her chains. The air was cooler, still heavy with anticipation. Arilissa's gaze caught mine as soon as I entered. Her eyes betrayed a flicker of hope, or perhaps a test. I circled her slowly, careful not to trigger the energy fields that hummed beneath the metal cuffs. The technology was beyond anything I had ever encountered, a seamless fusion of alien science and mystic enchantments. Each link inscribed with glyphs pulsed faintly, feeding off some hidden source. "Why are you here?" I asked aloud, my voice echoing in the cavern. She responded this time, not in images, but with a voice like crystal wind, fragile but determined. "I am bound by betrayal older than your kind can comprehend. My freedom is the key to a war that will consume worlds." The weight of her words sank deep. I wondered who could have chained a being so powerful, so otherworldly. Was she a prisoner, a victim, or something far more dangerous? The line blurred as I felt the undeniable pull between us, an electric tension neither of us could ignore. Hours passed as I worked to understand the chains. My scanners picked up a core reactor nestled within the pillar, something fueling the bonds and perhaps holding her life tethered. I realized any attempt to sever them without care might kill her or unleash a force I couldn't control. As I sat beside her, exhaustion began to claim me, but Aerolissa reached out, her fingers brushing my arm with surprising warmth. The contact sent a cascade of emotions through me: trust, desperation, and an ancient promise whispered across galaxies. Her lips parted, and she spoke again. "Touch the seal, Harrison. Only you can unlock what lies dormant." The name, spoken like a vow, settled heavy on my soul. Who was I to answer such a call? I had lived an ordinary life, unaware of the threads binding me to a destiny written among the stars. Yet here I was, faced with a choice that could redefine humanity's place in the universe. In that moment, the walls seemed to close in, the silence thick with expectancy. I took a deep breath and reached toward the core of the chains. The instant my skin met the glowing glyphs, a blinding surge ripped through the chamber, and the mind trembled as if awakening from centuries of slumber. Aerolissa's chains sparked and shattered like fragile glass, releasing a wave of energy that enveloped us both. Her eyes shone with freedom and gratitude, but beneath it lurked a storm, a secret warning that the nightmare was only beginning. As she stood, unbound and radiant, I realized that inheriting the mind had meant inheriting a war, a love, and a betrayal that would challenge every belief I held. The legend was no longer chained. Together, we would face the abyss and whatever darkness waited beyond. The moment Aerolissa stepped free from her chains, the atmosphere shifted as if the mine itself exhaled a long-held breath. Her radiant form pulsed with an otherworldly energy that made the shadows dance wildly against the walls. I could feel the weight of history pressing down on us, a history built on lies, betrayal, and a cosmic war fought long before my time. "Are you safe now?" I asked, unsure if freedom could truly mean safety for someone like her. She looked at me, her eyes sharp yet vulnerable. "Freedom is a beginning, not a sanctuary, Harrison. My captors still hunt me across the stars, and now they have a reason to come here." I swallowed hard, the reality of our predicament crashing in like a tidal wave. This ancient mine was no longer a relic of the past, but a battleground for a future neither of us fully understood. "What exactly happened to you?" I asked, wanting to unravel the mystery that clung to her like a second skin. She hesitated, then began. "I am the last scion of the Erythrea, a warrior clan betrayed by one of our own. We were guardians of a technology so powerful it could tip the balance of the universe. My ancestor entrusted me with it, but my bloodline was cursed by treachery." Her words ignited a storm in my mind. How could such ancient betrayal ripple through time to bind a living legend in chains? "And you think that technology is here?" I questioned, scanning the dimly lit cavern. "Yes," she said. "Buried deep beneath the ruins lies the core prism, a device capable of rewriting reality itself. Many have died trying to control it, including those who chained me." I realized then why the mind hummed with unnatural energy, why the air tasted of charged particles and forgotten power. "What do you want from me?" I asked, feeling the gravity of her expectation. She stepped closer, the intensity in her gaze both daunting and intoxicating. "I need you to help me retrieve the prism before it falls into the wrong hands. But more than that, Harrison, I need your trust." Her plea struck a chord within me. Trust was a fragile thing, and mine had been shattered long ago by people who promised the world and delivered nothing. "Why me?" I demanded. "Why choose a human to bear this burden?" She smiled faintly. "Because the last hope for my people lies with one who has no legacy, no chains, no predetermined fate." Her words echoed through the cavern, a challenge and a promise intertwined. "Then I'm yours," I said. "Let's reclaim what was lost." As we prepared to venture deeper into the ruins, a sudden tremor shook the ground, dust falling from the ceiling, warning of danger approaching. I grabbed her arm, pulling her behind a crumbling wall as distant explosions echoed through the tunnels. "They found us," she whispered, her voice tight with urgency. "The betrayers never rest." In that moment, I understood that freeing Aerolissa was only the first battle in a war that would consume more than just our lives. It was a war for survival trust and the fragile hope that two strangers bound by fate could rewrite destiny itself. The tunnel shook violently as explosions ripped through the ancient stone around us. The betrayers, the ones who had hunted our Alyssa for centuries, were closing in faster than I anticipated. Every instinct screamed to run, but something in her steady gaze anchored me. She was more than a captive. She was a warrior born for this fight. "We have to reach the core prism before they do," Alyssa urged, pulling me along the winding corridors. Her grip was fierce, urgent, like she carried the weight of worlds on her shoulders. As we raced deeper, the technology embedded in the mind began to react. Glyphs glowing brighter, walls humming with energy I could feel thrumming beneath my feet. This place was alive, a sleeping giant awakened by our presence. "What exactly is the core prism?" I demanded, breathless as we dodged falling debris. "It's a device capable of altering reality, bending the very fabric of existence," she explained, her voice low but charged with reverence. "In the wrong hands, it could mean annihilation for countless worlds, including yours." Her words sent a cold shiver down my spine. I had never imagined the fate of entire galaxies hinged on a relic buried beneath forgotten ruins. Yet here I was, tasked with protecting it alongside an alien legend bound by chains mere hours ago. "How do we find it?" I asked, scanning the jagged walls for clues. "Follow me," she replied with a fierce determination that left no room for doubt. As we moved, the corridors opened into vast chambers filled with alien machinery, humming with power. Screens flickered to life, displaying star maps and unknown constellations. I marveled at the advanced technology. It was centuries beyond anything on Earth. "This was once a hub for the Erythrea clan," Alyssa explained. "They guarded the prism from those who sought to misuse it." Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath us, and shadows flickered along the walls. The betrayers had found a way in. Mechanized soldiers cloaked in darkness advanced with relentless precision. "We need to hold them off," I said, pulling out a plasma pistol I hadn't even noticed strapped to my side. The weight was unfamiliar, but somehow fitting. "I'll protect the prism," Alyssa vowed, drawing a blade that shimmered with energy. "You protect me." The battle erupted in a blur of light and sound. Energy blasts tearing through the air, the clash of blade against metal. My heart pounded as adrenaline surged, every second a fight for survival. "Harrison!" Alyssa called out, narrowly dodging an attack. "The prism is close. We cannot fail." Her courage ignited a fire inside me. I wasn't just a man who inherited ruins. I was a guardian standing alongside a chained alien legend who had just been set free. The war was far from over, but in that moment I vowed to face whatever darkness lay ahead. For her, for the mine, for a future still unwritten. We barely escaped the onslaught of mechanized soldiers, retreating into a narrow passage that led deeper into the heart of the ruins. The air was thick with smoke and the distant echo of collapsing tunnels. Alyssa's breathing was steady but fierce, her eyes glowing faintly as if fueled by an inner fire. "We're close," she said, gripping my arm tightly. "The core prism lies just beyond this chamber." I nodded, my pulse still racing from the fight. The weight of the unknown settled heavy between us as we moved cautiously into the chamber head. It was unlike anything I had imagined. A colossal crystalline structure suspended in a field of energy, radiating light that bent and warped the very air around it. The prism pulsed softly, as if alive and aware of our presence. Alyssa approached reverently, her fingers tracing ancient symbols etched on its surface. "This power has been my curse and my burden," she whispered. "It holds the fate of my people and the universe." I felt the gravity of her words as a sudden vibration rippled through the chamber. The betrayers weren't done yet. Doors slammed shut behind us, sealing the chamber with a resonant thud. "We're trapped," I said, turning to find escape routes but found none. "No," Alyssa said, her voice calm but resolute. "This is the crucible where destinies are forged." She turned to face me, her eyes searching mine. "Harrison, to wield the prism, we must bind our souls. It's the only way to unlock its true potential." I hesitated, the enormity of her proposal crashing into me. To bind souls meant more than partnership. It was a fusion of essence, a surrender of control. But the desperation in her gaze left no room for doubt. "I trust you," I said firmly, stepping forward. "Then hold my hand," she whispered. As our hands met, the prism flared to life, engulfing us in radiant light. Visions flooded my mind, distant galaxies, ancient wars, moments of love and betrayal that transcended time. I saw the origins of the Erythrea, their fall, and the promise of rebirth through us. The bond formed was electric and profound. I felt Aerolys's strength melding with mine, our fears, hopes, and destinies intertwined. The chamber shook violently as the prism's power surged. A final explosion shattered the barriers, and the betrayers poured in, armed with weapons designed to tear through our new bond. I braced for battle, but Aerolysa raised her hand and unleashed a wave of energy so fierce it sent our enemies crashing into the walls. "Together," she said, "we will rewrite the fate of worlds." As I stood beside her, the chained alien legend no longer bound, I knew my inheritance was not just a ruin, but a beginning of love, war, and an impossible hope. The battle raged around us, but in that moment, everything else faded. Aerolys and I stood united, our souls bound by the prism's ancient power. The energy coursing through me was unlike anything I had ever known, strength, clarity, and a fierce protectiveness that overwhelmed my senses. "We cannot let them win," I whispered, feeling her pulse echo in my veins. She nodded, eyes fierce yet tender. "This is our fight, Harrison, not just for survival, but for the future of countless worlds." The betrayers launched their final assault, weapons blazing, but the bond we shared was an unbreakable shield. Aerolysa moved like a tempest, her blades slicing through enemies with precision and grace, while I wielded newfound energy, blasting through barriers that once seemed insurmountable. Every strike was a declaration, a refusal to surrender to a fate forged in betrayal and fear. I realized then that the chains that once bound her were not just physical, but woven into the fabric of history itself. Together we were rewriting that history. As the dust settled and silence fell over the ruins, Aerolysa turned to me, her eyes softening. "You've changed everything, Harrison. You freed me from chains older than time and gave me hope." I reached for her hand, the warmth grounding me in this surreal reality. "And you showed me that even in the darkest places, light can be found." The core prism pulsed gently between us, its power no longer a weapon but a beacon. We were no longer prisoner and inheritor, but partners bound by destiny and choice. The war was far from over, but in that fragile moment, hope burned brighter than ever. The ruins we once feared had become the foundation of a new legacy, one built on trust, love, and the courage to challenge the stars themselves. But as we stood together, basking in our victory, a cold whisper rippled through the chamber, a reminder that peace was fleeting. "Harrison, beware," Aerolys murmured, her voice edged with warning. "The betrayers may be broken, but their masters remain hidden and powerful." I clenched my fists, feeling the weight of the unknown pressing on my shoulders. "Then we fight," I said resolutely, "not just for survival, but to protect everything we have fought for." Her eyes met mine, full of fierce determination. "Together we will face whatever darkness comes. The stars are our witnesses." In that moment, I understood that inheriting the ruins was not just a twist of fate, but the start of a journey that would test everything I believed in about loyalty, sacrifice, and love. The chained alien legend was free, and with her by my side, I was ready to defy destiny itself.